gift to all of you is my channel may round joy. Today, I'm going to explain Blue Lock Season 3.
We start the Neo-Egoist League arc off with Rin sitting on the shore that he and Sei used to visit. He looks at his phone and sees how much criticism Sei is getting for his last play in the U20 match. Rin then thinks back to that exact moment and says that he definitely had the upper hand there. Rin's offense kept up closely with Sei's when he obeyed his instincts of wanting to destroy him completely and then managed to stop his last play. However, even though he won, he still don't really understand that new side of him. It felt new, but at the same time, nostalgic, almost like his veins were dancing. And on top of that, it seemed like Sei knew that part of Rin. Rin starts to wonder if this was his plan all along, and that Sei always wanted him to bring out this ego. However, none of it matters, as he only recognized Isagi in the end. Anyone can tell at a glance in that match that Isagi gained everything, while Rin was one step short. As Rin is looking out at the sea, he's determined to change and give it his all to destroy both Isagi and Sei. After that, we get to join the household of the Yoichi family, who is proudly replaying Isagi's interview over and over again. As they are getting ready to eat, Isagi's mom asks if life at Blue Lock isn't too difficult for Isagi, and that he's really evolved since joining the program. His dad agrees, and says that even though they don't know a whole lot about football, they are still extremely proud over Isagi. However, if Isagi wins or not isn't their biggest concern, as what makes the two of them glad is seeing Isagi happy. They don't care if he scores or even wins or not, as they will always be there for him, and only wishes him to live his life as he wants to, which makes Isagi extremely happy, as he says that from now on, he will become the best in the world. After dinner, he goes upstairs into his room. He thinks if living the life that you want is what it means to be an egoist. Even though Blue Lock helped him become something that he could never imagine, he still had to leave behind plenty of things and people. In Blue Lock, Isagi was able to learn the excitement of victory and the pleasure of scoring, the happiness of changing the world with his own hands. He sits up in his bed and says that he will do whatever to stay in Blue Lock. Just then, he gets a notification from Blue Lock, telling everyone to get back and to let the next act begin. We can also see Gagamaru just chilling in the woods as he gets his invitations, which is just so hilarious. The next day, all of the players arrive and lets the Blue Lock Project Phase 2 start. As they walked into the building, they are greeted by a bunch of players, kind of like how they were greeted in the first selection arc. But this time, it isn't just the Blue Lock players, as the former U20 players are here too. Isagi asks Aiku why they are here, and Aiku tells him that Ego asked them to. And I love how the first thing Naru and Bachira do is greet each other really happily. It's so cute. After that, Isagi spots Rin against the wall. He goes forward to greet him and says that it wouldn't be Blue Lock if he wasn't there. However, Rin tells him to stop talking to him and asks if he wants to get stabbed. However, before they can go any longer, the bowl cut himself pops up on the screen. He says that from now on, he holds the power of deciding every member of Japan's U20 team. And since he figured that even the losers might have their uses, he decided to invite them as well. Ego says that there are 100 days left before the U20 World Cup, and if they were to take part in it now, it would be simply impossible. Even so, it's not lost just yet, as he says that he's come up with a way to allow them all to evolve at a rapid pace, but before that, he has his annual quiz time and asks them what the cause for their improvement was. Awakening your ego, becoming aware of your innate weapons, the reason all of that happened was without a doubt due to this environment, this special yet cruel enclosed space called Blue Lock, and to be able to rise to greater heights. A new environment will be needed, and that's why Ego has decided to throw them into the hottest hellfire that exists, because in Blue Lock's Phase 2, they will all be thrown into the peak of the world, which is of course Europe's Big Five leagues. Popularity, ability, and money in these European pro football leagues are at the peak of all these things. Among these 5 countries, each of you is going to choose which environment you want to sharpen yourselves in. But before they can start choosing their league, Ego will give his judgment regarding each league, starting with England. A league characterized by speed and physical battles, where goals are stolen by the law of physical prowess. Next up is Spain, a league where technique and creativity are desired. Their citizens won't get satisfied by just seeing goals. It's a place that gathers footballers who want to express creativity and playfulness. After Spain, we have Italy, a league that favors slyness and tactics. They hold history in being able to win 1-0 while holding their defense. A playstyle that fuses individual strength with robust team organization was born here. After them comes France, which is a league that acts as a gateway to success for newcomers and young players. In recent years, their market has received a grand lot of investments, so the money flows constantly. They're currently in a great spot in becoming the greatest league in the world. And to end it all, we have Germany, a league that fundamentally understands that football is a sport that you win by scoring the most goals. They favor getting to victory by logical and rational means. And on top of that, the player who currently holds the title of the best striker in the world, and Isagi's idol Noel Noah, is here. After that, Ego tells them that the survival battle in the new environment you select will double as the final selection for the U20 World Cup as well. And with such an environment being the highest peak of the world, the one thing that will be the key to winning your place among the best will be demonstrated using your uniqueness. Their talents and weapons may have stood out here in Japan, but they will fall to the average level when compared to the world. So what you felt then and what you believe in will serve as a test, and if even then you're still able to show you have value that no one else does, then the world will be waiting for you. This next step they are about to take is a rite of passage to becoming a professional. Therefore, they must accurately visualize what they want to become and then choose the best environment for themselves. For better or worse, this choice is guaranteed to completely derail your life. And then, with 90 minutes left, it was time for them to make a choice that will completely change their life. Igarashi has decided that he wants to go to Germany, Otoya is going to Spain, Aryu is headed to Italy, and Zantetsu has decided on France, and I really hope that we get to see more from him in this arc because I feel like he's a really underrated character who deserves more love. Chigiri looks over at Isagi and asks if he's decided. Isagi says that this is also for national teams, so they have to choose a pro league that they want to learn from, but even then he isn't quite sure. He says that he's been watching a lot of English leagues recently, but as a kid, he always wanted to go to Germany because of Noah. After that, Isagi asks Chigiri if he has decided on a club, and he has decided on England as he wants his own speed to be tested. Ryo overhears them and says that they will be going together as he also chose England because he's fond of a lot of teams there and it also smells like money. Isagi turns around and asks Nagi if he's decided, and he says that he wants to go to the league which Bergkamp is in. However, Chigiri tells him that he's already retired, but tells Nagi that he played with England, and because of that, he's also ready to choose England. After that, Bachira comes and says that he's chosen Spain not to anyone's surprise. However, he says that it doesn't really matter anyway. Isagi is confused and asks what Bachira means. Bachira tells him that he's set on becoming the best striker in the world, so no matter what environment he experiences, all that matters is that he gets to wherever the top is. It's not a matter of making the right choice and instead making a path for himself, telling Isagi that what he trusts most isn't logic but his instinct. However, as he leaves, he says that even if they go different paths, it's common courtesy to have evolved by the next time they meet, which is quite sweet. Anyway, thanks to Bachira's words, Isagi has chosen to follow his instincts too and chooses the place which will make his blood boil the most, and that's none other than Germany. After that, the Germany players move in with each other and we get a look at who chooses to go the German path. And it's the following: Igarashi, Yukimiya, Hiroi, Raichi, Gagamaru, Neru, Corona, Kiora, and of course Isagi. By the way, a hot take, I would love to see more of Kiora, as he seems like such a cool character, so I really hope that they show him off more and at least something in this arc. Anyway, the players enters a dark room and sees a hologram of Ego. Ego says that the team that's currently the strongest in Germany is Bastard Munchen, and they will get the opportunity to play with the team's U20 players and train with them. Igarashi is hyped that they will be going to Germany, however Ego stops him in his tracks and says that the environment of the Big 5 European leagues will be recreated right here in Blue Lock, and to serve that purpose, he's invited players their age, who currently plays for the strongest teams in 5 big leagues, from England's Manchester City, Italy's Ubers, Spain's FC Barça, France's Paris X-Gen, and Germany's Bastard Munchen. The Blue Lock players' next goal will be to win in this environment, and the one who will be guiding you all won't be Ego himself, but instead the ace strikers who reign over each of these top teams. The Blue Lock players are able to see silhouettes of the players as Ego introduces the ace of Bastard Munchen and the master striker Noel Noah. Ego says that thanks to the result of the match with Japan's U20, Blue Lock has gained the attention of the entire world, and this pipe dream of his has caught the attention of greedy sponsors, which has made Phase 2 better than he could have imagined. But all of this isn't just limited to Germany, as a master striker has been gathered in each stratum. After that, he introduces all of the master strikers, starting with England's Chris Prince, who is considered to be a striker on par with Noah. Spain has got Lavinho, the genius dribbler of Spain's league. From Italy, we have Snuffy, who is said to be Uber's secret to success. And not to mention France's Loki, the #1 supernova who football fans around the world have their eyes on. They'll each guide their players on their own philosophy, and they will all evolve in that environment whether they want that or not. So how will this work, you may ask? Well, firstly, you will train under the master, to then possibly be chosen for the regulars, so you really must show your value to be chosen for a team mixed with the 11 members that were brought from the original team. After that, the 11 chosen will play in matches where the opponents will be the other teams, and therefore a league will be formed with those 5 teams, and you will have the chance to fight against new players, but also teammates who chose different leagues. In the matches, there are some rules. For example, it's the first to 3 goals that win, and 2 infinite substitutions exist. And now the most exciting feature of them all is that the masters are allowed to sub in for 3 minutes. Even though this is extremely hype for the players, they can't forget that this is the final selection for the team that's going to the U20 World Cup, and depending on how the matches go, after each one of them, the ranks could completely change. Ego says that this is exactly what he's been dreaming of, a fight to create the best striker in the world, calling it a battle for survival in the new generation and the creation of a football never seen in history before. Isagi is stunned to get the chance to learn from Noah himself, and even playing with him will definitely help him reach new levels. He's now on the path of becoming the best striker in the world. However, before he can calm down, Ego says that he forgot to say something. He says that on Bastard Munchin's team, there's going to be another player who he just had to personally include. All of the Blue Lock players that are already here have taken the proper path. However, Ego also prepared a hidden path for those who were defeated and forced different philosophies upon them, and he's now chosen to bring back the monster born out of that path. The doors open and he calls out the only survivor of the wild card and the final dark horse, which is none other than the man himself, Kunigami Rensuke. And with that, Blue Lock Phase 2 can officially begin. As Ego leaves, he says that he leaves everything to Noah, and just then, some sort of door opens up to what looks like a cybernetic world. Noah tells them in Germany to proceed to the goal and that he will be waiting there as he leaves them. The Blue Lock players quickly understand that they will have to race against the German players to see who arrives faster. Isagi goes forward to Kunigami and says that he knew that he would come back, and says that it's nice to have the superhero here. However, Kunigami tells him to quit it and that he doesn't call himself that childish name anymore, as he tells Isagi to get ready because the one who will be the best in the world will be him. Isagi is shocked to see Kunigami so changed, however he can't do anything else but to fight, and then the training starts. They start with some running, and Isagi notices that Kunigami is much faster now and that his physical specs are way higher now. As they come to the second zone, they have to sprint up a very steep road. Isagi is amazed at how the German players can keep up with this and wonders if they really are the same age as them. Even so, he's determined to not fall behind as he gets through Zone 3 easily. However, in Zone 4 he's facing some problems as he's having a hard time keeping up and says that the only one able to keep up is Kunigami. Just then, he sees that someone named Kaiser has already finished. He arrives at the final zone and will do everything to prove his worth. He gets behind the hinders easily and aims at the highest score possible, but just as he shoots, he hears someone speaking in German saying that he's been waiting to meet Isagi. He shots the ball at Isagi's ball, and no, not those balls. Isagi is amazed that he managed to block his shot, but just then, the mysterious man introduces himself as Kaiser, who does the impossible, as he tells Blue Lock to kneel for him. Just unfortunate that Isagi didn't understand any of that, as he was speaking in German. Isagi recognizes Kaiser right off the bat as one of the new Gen 11. But just then, someone else comes. He tells Kaiser that they can understand him and gives the Blue Lock players a special micro interpreter, which is a gift that helps them understand each other. After that, when they can understand each other, the guy introduces himself as Alexis Ness. But the Blue Lock players are to focus on their headphones and notice that they are built by Rio's family. Suddenly, someone else joins in. It's Eric Gesner, who tells Ness to stop being so polite and that they are only here because they were told that Blue Lock was amazing. After that comes Benedict Grimm, who's acting like he's in a school play, kind of like Are You actually. After that, Isagi looks away for less than 1 second, but just as he does so, Kaiser drags him closer to him as if he were in a K-drama. He tells Isagi that he came here to meet him, Blue Lock's own ace striker, and tells Isagi to not disappoint him. Isagi tries to get free, but then Kaiser uses his full force to what it looks like pin Isagi against the wall. He tells Isagi to shut his mouth and to give him a reason not to feel like coming here was a waste of time, saying that he wants Isagi to get into his life. Finally, Isagi agrees and says that he will do as Kaiser says. He will gladly destroy his life. Kaiser then asks Ness to give him a tissue as he owns him or something. Anyway, Ness asks Kaiser what Isagi's title would be. Kaiser says that until he takes his place on the stage as the world's best striker, and now that he's stuck in this jock of an interlude called Blue Lock, The other players are the circus animals that provide some entertainment, but when he takes the stage, it makes Isagi into the pathetic clown who thought he was the star. But just then, Noah comes and tells Kaiser to knock it off, calling it childish. Kaiser tries to argue, but Noah tells him to not talk back, and that it's him that makes the rules here. After that, Noah says that their initial training is done. Noah states that this room was designed to measure their physical abilities, due to Bastard Munchin's philosophy being that of extreme rationality. Noah doesn't put any stock on the invisible powers known as impression or emotion, but instead only thinks with logic and numbers, saying that the 21 players here will be ranked based on training and gameplay data, which will give the top 11 the chance to play in the next match. Isagi realizes that this is a game of data survival, where numbers are everything. He also says that he's in a pinch due to him being rock bottom on the leaderboard. None of the Blue Lock players managed to snatch a place in the top 12, or except one, the newly founded weapon Kunigami, who got a 3rd place in the rankings, followed by Ness in 2nd place and Kaiser in 1st. Even though Isagi is at rock bottom, he's determined to rise through the ranks to then drag down Kaiser from his throne. After that, Isagi and the players start their training. They only have 10 days left until the first match and have to follow Noah's designated training every day. Not to mention that each time the ranking changes, they swing between hope and fear as they battle to get into the top 11. Isagi knows that he won't get to play unless he can make it into the top 11, so he's got no even Noah himself. After that, we jump right into the first of many thrilling Neo-Egoist League matches. And we're starting it off with a bang, as FC Barca is facing off against Bastard Munchin. As the FC Barca players enter the field, Otoya and Bachira spots Isagi on the bench, and Bachira says that he's going ahead. Isagi thinks back to the 10 days of training leading up to this, and says that he wasn't able to reach the top 11 regulars, and out of everyone in Blue Lock, the only one who was chosen was the wildcard himself, Kunigami. Isagi is both angry and pissed at every single second he was to spend on the bench. He wants to be on the pitch and burn his presence into the players' minds. And just then, the match starts. Kaiser and Ness begin their honeymoon phase as they pass each other. Ness spots Grim on the other side and passes him a super clean vertical pass right between Barca's players. Grim uses his brute force to get behind not one, but 2 players from Barca, and then when he gets his chance, he passes the ball to the other side, into the legs of Eric Genser. Isagi is stunned as he is looking at their play, saying that Eric is outstanding at trapping, and says that he threads the needle with his delicate dribbling, which is such an over-explained way of saying things. Eric looks into the box and decides to pass Kunigami even though he's being surrounded by defenders. The ball is approaching, and so is Kaiser. Kaiser is in a perfect position to receive a pass from Kunigami. However, he instead decides to trap the ball with his chest to forcibly keep it. He moves forward while he pushes the defenders back, and then shoots an incredible shot with his left leg trademark. The ball is going at an impressive speed, however the Barca goalkeeper managed to reach it in time and save it. Isagi is still just watching from the sidelines, but he compliments Kunigami, saying that he's evolving at an incredible speed, and that he's drastically boosted all of his physical abilities, which has given him the freedom to be able to score a goal from anywhere on the pitch, calling Kunigami the perfect striker without any weaknesses. The ball is still in play, and Barca decides to counter, but as Kunigami runs back, Ness stops him. He asks Kunigami what he's trying to do, and that if he had passed to Kaiser, they would have scored. Even so, Kunigami doesn't give a shit, and says that he will follow his own way of dominance, telling Ness to go and bark up another tree. This upsets Ness, and he grabs Kunigami, telling him with a smile that a violation of loyalty to Kaiser is his first yellow card. After that, we go into something more interesting, as Blue Lock's own little monster gets the ball and says that it's showtime. He also says that it's time to raise the BPM before thinking about what football he shall dance. However, before that, we go into a flashback and turn back 10 days to when the Blue Lock players first get introduced to Lavinho. Otoya asks him if this is for real, and if Lavinho will teach them football. Lavinho says that he's their master, however he will not teach them football. He laughs and says that this place was built to make the best striker in the world, but he is already the best, so why would he give out any hints? Even so, Bachira asks him if Noel Noah isn't the best striker in the world. This upsets Lavinho, who asks him if he's trying to pick a fight. He then says that he doesn't care what anyone says because he knows that he's the best. Lavinho then goes off and says that he has something inside him. It's something that others can't see, but instead, an image that exists within him alone. He then takes the ball and says that if you want to become the best, then you can't just do as you're told. Back in Brazil, they have a word called ginga, which means something like shaky or swaying. It comes from capoeira, which is a mix between dancing and martial arts. He tells them that you can start out by copying other strong dudes and then try to mix it up and create their own image of the best in the world, saying that their original style starts there. Lavinho himself uses the image of a butterfly as he dances on the field. He ends it by saying that football is all about improvising at the moment. It's about stealing the rhythm to one that pleases you. Then Bachira jumps in and steals the ball, and I love Otoya. He's like Bachira's own hype man. After that, Bachira gets to see how his movements look like. He says that he should try to copy Lavinho's movements and then mix that up with his own image of the world's best. So he begins his training with some hard work and meditation. After that, when Bachira and Lavinho are alone, Bachira tells him that he can also see a thing which he calls his monster. However, Bachira is unsure what to do with it, as he got stronger by overcoming it. But what image should he come up with now? Lavinho asks if the monster is still there, and Bachira says that he can bring it up again if he wants to. Lavinho then says that it's easy, and that Bachira has to evolve that monster to the next level. Bachira's monster is his own guide to his originality, and will lead to him reaching the spot as the world's best. After that, we get back to the game where Bachira is absolutely crushing an opponent. Igarashi and Hiroi are amazed, but Isagi is focused on something else as he says that he feels that Bachira's dribbling posture has changed. It now feels like he's spending less energy. He's moving the ball around with his foot practically glued to it. Even so, his ball touches do very little movement to his actual center of gravity, which makes him a lot more stable. Another one from Bastard Munchen goes to stop Bachira and says that even though he has infinite options to dribble to, he's still not moving forward. He gets impatient and decides to go in himself, but because of that, he gets absolutely demolished, as he was the first one to taste Bachira's new dribble style, his Ginga X Monster style. But then another threat comes around as Kunigami comes to stop him. However, Bachira is hyped up as he tells them to go, and even calls Kunigami the wild hero. However, before they go at each other, Bachira tells Kunigami that it's nice to see him again, but Kunigami just rushes at him, saying that he will take the lead. Bachira tries to shake off Kunigami with some dribbles, but Kunigami is steadily following. Bachira then swings wide with a double touch, which then leads into another double touch. However, this one is much faster than the last one, which makes him get behind Kunigami in no time. After Kunigami stands both Grim and Eric, but they are nothing to Bachira, who makes a beautiful back heel pass to Ignacio Lala on the left wing, who right away passes it away to Otoya in the box. The ball falls down and leads on his heel, which he uses to continue the attack, and passes it back to Bachira, who's by his side. Bachira jumps up and does an outstanding goal, which gives FC Barça a 1-goal lead. Isagi is watching from the benches, and says that FC Barça really is a free and amusing team that lets the players play as they want. Both Ignacio and Otoya go to celebrate with Bachira, which is kind of sweet. They all look so happy. As Isagi was able to analyze Bachira from the bench, he says that Bachira's dribbling has clearly evolved, saying that Bachira is now able to just do what he wants, and says that he attacks like a child, which is also quite sweet. Even so, Bachira also has his adult side where he waits for his opponent and makes a move based on that. Bachira is only able to play like this thanks to FC Barça's carefree and fun environment. Isagi then compares it with Ego's speech and says that this was what he meant. However, if that's the case, then what is it that he's supposed to learn from his environment? Bastard Munchen's style is rationality, and judging from the other series of plays earlier, they basically cut off every unnecessary move and get in front of the goal by using the shortest possible distance. Isagi thinks about what he would do if he were to get subbed in right now. Should he stick to the role of connecting with Kaiser? No, that's not going to work, as he doesn't possess any individual skills that Grim and Eric don't have already. But if he were to ignore their rule and play for the sake of his own goal, he might just end up getting ignored like Kunigami is. After that, he overhears Igarashi and Hiroi talking. Igarashi says that Kunigami is going to be substituted any second now, as it's completely a one-man egocentric play. Hiroi agrees and says that it's damaging the team's rationality. Igarashi is really out here thinking that he will get subbed in. Keep wishing, bro. Isagi goes back to his little mind and says that even if he were to get subbed in now, he's no idea what to do. Up until now, he's only been able to fight this far because of Blue Lock's ego mindset and rules. But now it's different, as he has to fit into the Bastard Munchin system. It's already hard getting in with just numbers, but now he has to change his style as well. He looks over at Kunigami and says that his existence is for sure a hint for him to be able to get into the spot of the regulars. And then the match was back. Ness asks Kaiser what they are going to do now, and Kaiser coldly tells him that they will execute them. They start their 1-2s with each other and flawlessly get behind 3 of FC Barça's players, including Bachira. Isagi is in shock. He says that Ness is really good and that his ankles are really flexible. He then compliments Kaiser for moving up to the perfect position to create a pass course, while Ness stays at the perfect distance to pass at any time. And with his ankle technique, he's able to easily switch directions past an opponent, calling Ness the beating heart of Bastard Munchin. Reichi is pissed at the bench and says that if he also had an impressive midfielder behind him, he would be able to score up to 1,000,000 goals, saying that Kaiser is just blessed by this system. Isagi agrees to an extent and says that the team is moving by doing rational plays. However, ever since this match started, Kaiser's movements haven't had a single second to waste. He's been moving as bait, positioning to receive the ball and breaking out for a shooting course. The way Kaiser moves, it's almost like he's embodying Isagi's ideal movements. They have finally reached the critical point of the field, and just then, all of Bastard Munchin moves up, which gives Ness infinite cross possibilities, which makes it so that the defenders can't even imagine what comes next. And then Ness shoots his cross. The ball goes of course to Kaiser, who's been hiding stealthily in the infinite options within the most efficient spot. However, it's not as easy for Kaiser as it sounds, as the man, the myth and the legend Bachira comes behind him. Kaiser takes his hand and tries to push him back. Even so, Bachira is still holding on. The ball goes down and Kaiser starts off with a fake out, which disturbs their movements. And then right as he gets his chance, he uses his Kaiser impact to shoot the ball right away. The ball is flying so fast that the goalkeeper has no chance of reacting, and with that, he makes the scores even. Isagi is amazed and calls Kaiser a genius, saying that unlike Bachira, Nagi, or even Rin, on the field, he's a genius of extended plays. Kaiser is able to embody his ideal form, but it's not even that anymore because he's already managed to surpass that. Noah gets up and says that Kaiser's right foot kick that uses all of his body at once to execute, calling Kaiser the fastest in the world when it comes to the swing, which is the one thing he beats Noah in. This makes Isagi wonder if he's been thinking about it all wrong. The foundation of Bastard Munchin's hyper-rationality isn't the players around him, but it's Kaiser's ability itself that is the philosophy of the team. If all the goals are scored with Kaiser impact, an absolute rationality without any inefficiency would be created in the team, the method of turning 0 into 1. Isagi then thinks back to Ego, saying that it's just as he mentioned before, that an original striker with an overwhelming 0 to 1 is here. But does this mean that Kaiser is the embodiment of Blue Lock's ideals of having the world's best qualities? Kaiser is walking beside Bachira, and he tells him that it was to be expected that the world was filled with nasty egos. Bachira looks back and says that Kaiser is the best, and that's why he will crush him. However, just then, someone rises himself from the seat. He says that he wasn't planning to come out, but even so, he's ready to use his 3 minutes. And it's of course the man himself, Lavinho, who gets out and goes to join the battle. This shocks everyone who wasn't ready for Lavinho to come out. However, someone quickly goes to the counter, and it's Noah who says that Lavinho is still as immature as always, as he takes off his jacket and goes to join in as well. They go forward to each other and face off, which actually looks so incredibly cool, with both Noah and Lavinho facing off, and not to mention Kitsunezato and Hayate being 2 hype men as they always are. Noah looks furiously into Lavinho's eyes and says that he lost to Noah last year, but Lavinho just calls Noah's football boring and too rational, saying that his heart goes out to his apprentices. Even so, Noah just tells him that his team is filled with children without a proper adult, which funny enough makes Lavinho turn into a child. After that, Noah turns to Kunigami and asks to hear his theory, saying that to fight on this team, one of the options in the attacks is centralized with Kaiser. And if you don't want to do that, then you will have to show that your abilities surpass Kaiser. However, Kunigami managed to fail in both of them, and on top of that, he's got nothing to say in his defense. Noah then turns to the players and says that the opposite of chance is a pinch, and if you miss the chance that's in front of you, you will then fall into a pinch, which is equal to a missed opportunity. But that's only because the risk and return are equal. He goes back to Kunigami and tells him that he's failed and is being put on the bench for a better player who is none other than Isagi Yoichi. This makes Four Eyes angry, and he goes to argue right away. He asks Noah to give him an explanation, and that when it comes to training numbers, he is better. Even so, the world has to get what they want, and that is Isagi. Isagi's chance has finally come, and he will now make his debut match and dive into the field of superstars. And with that, the 2 teams get ready and then quickly start the game. Lavinho has the ball, and Noah goes to stop him right off the bat. Lavinho tries to throw him off, but it's the best player in the world we are talking about here. Isagi is looking from the side and says that there is no way for him to keep up, calling it a battle of the gods. Even so, it's not like he just wants to give up and let them have their fun, because he finds a space that he thinks he can use to help Noah. However, as he gets closer, Lavinho does a rainbow flick, and then uses Isagi as a block to get past Noah. Igarashi is screaming from the bench, but it's not like he could have done any better. Noah quickly asks Isagi if he knows why Livigno is called the Dance Man. However, Isagi has no idea, so Noah explains that he's the best in the world at taking his opponents by surprise. However, those magnificent steps are not the origin of that name, as the players who are led by his dribbles seem like they're dancing as they topple down. While Noah is giving his explanation, we can see Livigno absolutely destroying the bastard Munchin's defense. He gets to the goalkeeper and jumps over him to then get to the finishing line and backheel the ball into the goal, making FC Barça take the lead in this game and also telling everyone to dance till they die, and then calls them cripples randomly, just standard Livigno. With Livigno calling everyone cripples, he got Bachira to fanboy over him to then call him a god. We then get this wholesome panel of FC Barça celebrating together. After that, Kaiser goes over to Isagi and says that he really screwed up there. This makes Isagi mad and says he couldn't get in either. However, Kaiser tells him that he's wrong and that he chose not to, saying that he and Bachira were waiting for a chance where either of them seemed off rhythm. Any other timing and they would just be a nuisance dragging the two down. He asks Isagi how he could be so lowly to not understand such a thing, calling him an overly self-conscious clown. Kaiser walks away and Isagi stays behind thinking that he can't get into the game. However, he can't just give up and tell himself that there's a gap in ability between him and the Masters, and to leave a trace of his existence, he will have to score his own goal and says that he will devour the superstars. And just like that, the game is back in action. Ness and Kaiser start off passing to each other, while Isagi thinks that the only way to steal a goal in this team would be to find a better position than Noah, and then patiently wait for a pass there. But just then, Noah starts to speed up and accelerates behind a bunch of FC Barça players. Ness sees him speeding up and passes him. He gets the ball and embarrasses another FC Barça player. As Isagi is trying his best to keep up with Noah's play, he finally realizes that it's impossible for the current him to find a better position than Noah. Noah keeps on destroying until Livigno goes to stop him. However, Noah gets over him surprisingly easily. Even so, he gets stopped by the other players, which gives Livigno time to get up again, to then bash into Noah's strong body. However, Noah uses this to his advantage and gets on top of Livigno, to then use his ability of being ambidextrous to shoot a power shot with his left leg. The ball has incredible speed as it goes into the goal and makes the scores even, and making the last goal more important than ever before. Isagi thinks back to Noah's outstanding goal and says that a person completely ambidextrous is really rare to see and happens to less than 1% of humans. But with Noah's insane performance comes also a tragedy, as the 3 minutes have passed and both of the masters have to go out. As Noah is going back to his seat, he looks at Kunigami and says that it's time for him again. He asks if Kunigami thinks that he can trace Noah's movements after seeing it live, also calling him the wildcard's copyman. As Noah is getting to his seat, he tells both Isagi and Kunigami that this is the last chance for both of them and says that if they disappoint, then they can get replaced at any time, telling them to prove themselves with numbers. And then, the rivalry of the last goal starts between Kunigami and Isagi. As they are walking onto the pitch, Isagi asks Kunigami what Noah meant when he called him a copyman. Kunigami asks why it would matter to Isagi, but he tells him that he wants to know what happened at the wildcard so that he can beat him. Kunigami explains that the wildcard was an experiment to create a vessel and someone with the same physique as Noah. A physique that would be the same as the best player in the world. Isagi is shocked and asks how it worked. However, Kunigami says that it doesn't matter and tells him that it's not like anyone on this team is going to pass to him, telling Isagi that he should worry about himself more. And then the final stretch starts as FC Barça starts with the ball. Isagi goes to block Bachira, but gets hit with his incredibly fast stepovers. But before he can do anything, Bachira passes to Otoya and then manages to get behind Isagi. However, behind Isagi comes Grim, who's fast on the attack and gets help from Kunigami. But not even the two of them can stop Bachira when he's starting his dance. But someone who can is Ness, who's been hiding in the dark and has waited for the right moment to strike. He gets the ball and begins the counterattack of Bastard Munchin. Isagi knows that Ness will try to pass to Kaiser, so as the ball is getting closer to Kaiser, he gets in the way and hijacks the pass. However, he's in a very bad position to score from, and only has a total of 2% goal percentage. He tries to think about what to do, but the FC Barça players are pushing him fast, and he has no way to react, so he ends up taking the shot anyway, which sadly gets blocked. Even though he managed to get the ball, he was left with no ideas from that point on, and to begin with, that pass from Ness was perfected for the purpose of letting Kaiser score. So even if he were to get the ball again, without Kaiser's weapon, it's useless, as this isn't a range that you can score from without Kaiser's impact. The ball finally lands in the hands of Grimm, and Isagi tries to get him to play together, but he quickly gets ignored. He knows that now more than ever, he needs to find a new way to score, because if he fails, then this match ends. And if the match were to end, then he's failed at proving the worth of his existence. The only way he could turn this around is if he listened to ego and tries his best to get into flow state and then find a way to score the finishing goal. Grimm is quickly advancing through the left side. He looks into the box and sees Kunigami trying his best to block of Kaiser. This makes it impossible for Grimm to pass Kaiser, so he turns to his other option, which is Ness. However, before the ball actually reaches Ness, our main man Isagi comes and steals it again, making it 2-0 for Isagi versus Ness. Even so, Isagi is facing trouble right off the bat as Bachira goes to cover him, saying that stealing the ball from his teammate is so like him, which is quite funny in a way. However, both Bachira and Isagi know that he has no way of scoring from that angle. As Isagi does a fake shot to get Bachira off balance, he says that he can't see his own goal, but this is his only option to devour Kaiser, even if it means abandoning his own goal. It looks like Isagi is trying to pass Kaiser, and Ness suddenly looks happy, saying that he's finally aiming to assist Kaiser, and Kaiser adds on calling him a good boy. And let me just say that I wish I was Isagi so much right now, for absolutely no reason, of course. Isagi passes the ball into the middle, but as he passes, he tells Kaiser to go fuck himself, and that he would never pass someone like him, because he was instead aiming for the person behind Kaiser, and that person was none other than the edgelord Kunigami. As Kunigami is powering up his shot, he tells Kunigami that the two of them can destroy not just Kaiser, but the whole team. After that, Kunigami understands that if he doesn't shoot soon, then the ball will hit his balls, so he takes his outstanding left shot to shoot an incredible goal, which from the looks of it, even shocks Noah. And with Isagi's and Kunigami's teamwork, it leads to a goal, but not just one goal, but also the honor of winning the whole match. And to end it off, Isagi tells Kunigami that this team is there to take. Kunigami goes forward to Isagi and asks him why he decided to pass him, telling him that there's no reason for him to owe Isagi such a favor. Even so, Isagi says that he just wanted an outcome that he could grasp. He tells Kunigami that he didn't do it for him, but instead to benefit him. Kunigami looks disappointed and says that Isagi's only solution was through an assist. As he walks away, he calls Isagi a fallen striker. After that, Bachira goes forward to Isagi and says that he won't criticize the goal if that was what he intended for, but still hints that he was a bit disappointed at Isagi's decision. But even so, he is curious as to why Isagi passed to Kunigami instead of Kaiser, who was in a much better position. Isagi tells him that he wouldn't want to be Kaiser's pet, and that Kunigami's lefty shot was the only element he knew of. Bachira is still a bit disappointed, but he tells Isagi that the next time the two of them meet, it will be as egoists aiming for the same goal. Isagi agrees and asks for Bachira to wait for him, saying that he will soon be on the same stage as him as a striker. But as they are talking, they can hear someone laughing, and it's none other than Ness. He laughs about the thought of Isagi as a striker and says that Isagi didn't only steal the assisting role from him, but he even ignored Kaiser and passes the ball to Kunigami, who were at a disadvantage. Isagi just tells Ness to shut up and says that at the end of the day, they won with Kunigami's goal and that numbers don't lie. He asks Ness if that isn't the team philosophy. However, Ness is persistent and says that the team just happens to be Kaiser's. And I just love Bachira's little confused face as he's unsure if he should break up the fight or what he's supposed to do. Isagi then coldly tells Ness that the team will soon be his. Before they can start to actually fight, Kaiser comes in between and completely shoves Ness face down. He apologizes and says that he underestimated Isagi. Kaiser says that after the last play, it's time for a revision in their casting, and says that Kunigami is the leader of their Blue Lock squad, while Isagi is the pawn under him. I actually feel sorry for Bachira, who just randomly got dragged into this conversation and has to listen to them. Anyway, Isagi then gives Kaiser his own role. How kind of him. Isagi gives Kaiser the role of the naked king who had everything stolen from him, which definitely deserves a place in Isagi's top 10 coldest moments. But just then, they get interrupted by Ego, who compliments them on their first game. He then randomly starts talking about how good his drink is, before starting to compare the world of pros to a game of musical chairs, saying that when you get into a team that's already complete, you have to then steal somebody's position, or else you will end up with no job, and every team has its own philosophy with everything from logic, freedom, rules, and that sort. After he's talked some more, he goes into the new rankings now that the match is over. We can see all of the numbers just starting to add up more and more, Reichi asks what the numbers mean, and Ego says that they're yearly salaries for the players, revealing the true purpose of the Neo-Egoist League, telling them that all of the matches are under the inspection of football club owners in the whole world. All of them will watch the game and then bid on each player after each match, and the highest bid will represent their value. Isagi's salary finally comes to a stop, and it's at 17 million yen, which completely shocks him. Ego also explains that these aren't just some made-up numbers, as they are all actual contract offers that will be given after each match is finished. Each bid gives the club the right for negotiating a contract for that annual salary, and it also serves another purpose, as it's their current value. Isagi's club offer came from Dortmund, which is Bastard Munchen's biggest rival, kind of ironic. We also get to see other players' offerings, like Kunigami, who got a 24 million yen offering from Kawasaki Breakers. Bachira had one himself, which came from FC Portimian, and had a salary of 32 million yen. The Rat also got one from his own club, which is kind of weird, but then we see the real price, who is Kaiser's offering, which also comes from Bastard Munchen, and contains a total of 300 million yen. After that, Igarashi and Reichi quickly realize how useless they are as their offerings are zero. Ego explains that it's because they haven't played any matches yet, and tells them at the end of the Neo-Egoist League, excluding the overseas players of course. But they will use the salary ranking from Blue Lock to determine the top 23 players in Blue Lock, who will automatically join the team in the U20 World Cup, which is quite sick. Ego tells the Blue Lock players that this is an opportunity to hone their skills, and for the foreigners, this is a place to showcase themselves to club owners all over the world, making this a marketplace for new talents. Reichi looks upset and asks if that means that they are simply products to him, and Ego says that he would be fully right. However, it doesn't end there, as Ego says that he made a deal that he would showcase the popular players, and especially Isagi. Even so, Noah was against it until the bitter end. In the end, he only accepted to be forced to use him for a single match, to then get a price tag on the poster boy. Bachira quickly grasps the situation and says that in the end, it doesn't matter if the team wins or loses as long as they can show off their value. And Bachira is correct, but for a striker to show off their value, they have to score goals, so in the end, they will have to try their hardest to win. Igarashi adds on by saying that this is a big chance for most of the players, but on the flip side, if you fail to get a spotlight here, you will leave an impression on all big teams that you're just some loser. And Ego simply ignores it and says that he loves that they show off their angry faces, telling them that it sells like hotcakes. He asks them if they don't think that it's weird that he managed to get world superstars and top clubs to take part in a project like this. But he then reveals that he's sending a reality show of them. He then shows them a live video from the second match, which is currently going on, which is the Ubers versus PXG. He shows Rin fighting his all on the pitch before saying that the number of people who subscribe to this content has already surpassed 80 million, revealing that it's his own super entertainment Blue Lock TV. So all of them Blue Lock players are currently fighting for their lives while it's being streamed to the whole world. We get back to the match where Rin has gone into his shooting stance and makes a wonderful goal, giving PXG the win. Ego tells the Blue Lock players that there is no doubt left that Blue Lock is the most critical place in the current world of football. Isagi is thinking to himself how amazing this is and calls Ego a genius. But it doesn't end there, as Ego reveals the sad truth that if you can't get into matches, you won't get to show off and will end up with no offerings. They may continue to aim for the striker position as they have, or they can try escaping to another position to steal the place of another regular. No matter what they do, they have to prove their worth. And then he ends it by telling them that their next match is in 10 days against England's Manchester City. And with that, we jump right into a flashback to 10 days earlier, when the Blue Lock players first meet Chris Prince. Chris explains that the philosophy of his team is speed and rush, which only a healthy body can harbor. Now that's a very good message and all, but it would help if he actually said it to the Blue Lock players and not to the camera. Anyway, Chris goes up to Chigiri and asks him what exactly he was hoping for when he chose Manchester City. Chigiri doesn't really have a straight answer, but says that he wants his speed to be more powerful. After that, Chris takes the matter into his own hands as he starts analyzing Chigiri's body, and I mean his whole body. But it's not just Chigiri who gets the special service, as both Ryo and Nagi also get a taste of it. After Chris is done with his assignment, he says that he understands their talents and that he's able to see how they've managed to get this far. Even so, he tells them that they all rely too much on their talents, and when they don't take care of their talents, it will end up withering. He takes the talent to run fast as an example, and says that it's not something that was taught by someone else, and that they simply acquired that talent naturally thanks to their body's disposition. However, in order to become a better player, that person desired the power to be like a tank. Their own body was previously developed only to be able to run fast, and then the training was like putting on a suit of armor to a body like that. What ended up happening was that they got slower. They managed to lose their balance thanks to the excessive muscles, and became a worse player. If someone lusts for power while not understanding the mechanism of their own talent, they might start training blindly and end up with a body completely unbalanced, which makes your talent useless. Thanks to that, you would end up losing your identity, breaking your mentality, and being completely done as a player, which is quite common in the world. It happens all the time that geniuses vanish completely. And being successful while still not understanding your own mechanism can easily turn into a curse that brings you suffering. Chris reveals that he was just like that in the past. It's extremely important for you to understand what kind of muscles helps you bring out your talent and create plays that you want. But when you figure out how to do it, your body will look as jacked as Chris's does. After Chris's emotional speech, which lasted an eternity, he goes full ad mode and says that that's the reason why water is better than cola and promotes his Prince water. After that quick ad breaks provided by Chris, he reveals what the players will get in joining Manchin City. They will understand all of the mechanisms of their bodies and start to feel their own talents in their body, and only with a perfect body will you be able to use your talents properly. And the reason they are all here is to awaken the unknown talent that still sleeps within them. And that's how the Blue Lock players' crazy journey started. After that, we get back into real time where Manchin City is reacting to the game between Bastard Munchin and FC Barcha. Nagi is shocked at Isagi's 17 million salaries, and one thing which I think is on all of their minds is the possibility of them debuting in the U20 team, which still blows my mind. However, it's quite hard seeing the whole picture, as Chris is like a walking ad everywhere in Manchin City. But after that comes the salaries for the PXG and Ubers match, where we see Aryu, or the style guy as Nagi calls him. Anyway, he got a 5 million offer from Urawa Rubies. After that, we have Karasu, who had to play as a midfield, which is quite unusual for him, I would assume. Anyway, he got a 12 million offer from the real PXG, which is quite sick. After him, it's Aiku, who got a 15 million offer from Bolos. Shidu also managed to get away with a 20 million offer from Ajax, and Rin with the astonishing 36 million offer from PXG as well. And then we can see the whole ranking, and just look at how many people are without any value yet. I'm sure that the rankings will shift a lot, but there will be a bunch of players without any in the end, unfortunately. Chris then tells them that he knew about everything the whole time, but ego made him keep quiet. However, he says that now that everything has been revealed, they can truly get started, as their next opponents are Bastard Munchin. And then we get 2 panels where we can see all of them putting in their maximum work effort, and Nagi also tells the world to wait for him, which sounds so incredibly cool. After that, we leave Manchin City and head back to Bastard Munchin, where they have just gotten back to their changing room. Isagi is sitting on the bench, thinking about Kunigami's goal, and says that he wants it to be his goal next time. Even so, it doesn't take long for his peace and quiet to last, as both Igarashi and Reichi start pimping up against each other. Igarashi walks over to Isagi and says that his new salary is amazing, but even though he's gotten a huge offer, it's more about the club, he says, as he's been a big Dortmund fan. Then Isagi takes a moment to think back, as he says that their efforts in Blue Lock have directly reached the world, saying that all of them are incredible. However, the one who's the most incredible of them all is Rin, who's even got a higher value than Isagi. In the end, it comes down to who's scored the most goals, and on top of that, he knows that he can't be a forward in Japan's U20 team the way he is now. After that, Gagamaru gives everyone a reality check real quick and says that there are only 3 more games, and if you can't play a match, then you're done for. Corona agrees, and adds that they might even have to resort to taking other positions than they aim for. Even so, Reichi says that he refuses and is persistent on being a striker. Then he tries to feel pity for himself and says that if he only were a favorite of theirs as Isagi is. However, Isagi quickly tells him that it's not like he asked for it. The other players say that they think it's great that Isagi got his opportunity, or well, everyone except one, and that's Yukimiya, who says that he will never accept it. He asks Isagi how he can even think about being in the regulars if he's out on the pitch assisting. Isagi tells him that it wasn't like he wanted to, but Yukimiya adds oil to the fire and says that even if that's true, he's still disappointed in Isagi. Even Hiroi and Gagamaru acknowledge that this isn't like Yukimiya to say. However, Isagi still responds to him, telling Yukimiya that sure, he did an assist, but that play was only a waypoint to becoming a striker. He even asks Yukimiya if he wouldn't have done the same thing. However, Yukimiya denies that and says that he wouldn't, and that passing doesn't feel good. Isagi tells him that this isn't about feeling good, it's the result of focusing on what he could challenge in his own way. He tells Yukimiya that he has no regrets about making that choice. Yukimiya then says that if that were the case, Isagi could have just lost by himself without getting an assist, and this makes Isagi mad as he gets right up and asks if Yukimiya is trying to pick a fight with him. Yukimiya tries to defend himself and says that he was just saying what he thought, but Isagi tells him to speak only after he's realized his own ideals, and says that if he can be in the regulars with just lip service, then even an idiot like Igarashi can. Isagi calls Yukimiya blind to reality. Now Isagi has lit Yukimiya's fire, as well as he gets angry, and tells Isagi to not expect that his righteousness to be accepted by everyone, telling Isagi that as long as his ideals are far out of sight, he will fight until he dies. This makes Isagi furious, who's about to probably place Yukimiya in his place with a beating. But before he can do so, Hiroi comes in between and stops him. And then in the midst of it all comes Kaiser, who tells Yukimiya to join him if he hates Isagi that much. Kaiser says that they're all afraid to face the reality of their own weaknesses, so they shift the issue by finding fault in others who have succeeded. However, eventually they run away from their ideals, telling Yukimiya that he can help him tame the jealous demon inside him. Even so, Yukimiya isn't so interested in joining Kaiser either, as he turns him down. However, before he leaves, he tells them to make a good choice and to not end up serving the wrong king. As Kaiser has left, Hiroi says that he's so full of himself and says that they are all still by Isagi's side. However, the room is silent after he said it. He asks everyone what's wrong, and they all say that they have to think about themselves and that they either link with Isagi or become a part of Kaiser's system. Realizing that they have their own way of fighting, and Kurona even says that either one of them can turn to a friend or foe. After that, we jump right into a flashback, starting with Yukimiya just going about his day shopping when he was approached by a photographer who asks him if he wants to model. However, Yukimiya tells him that it causes trouble as there's an all-Japan soccer championship next month. Yukimiya continues fighting on the soccer path and is determined to become a pro soccer player. However, when he's suddenly out with his friends, his vision starts to get blurry and weird, so he goes to the doctor, who says that it's tunnel vision, and appearance of blind spots when he's fatigued, which is common causes of optic neuropathy. The progression of this eye disease can't be stopped. It's accompanied by headache and nausea, and in the worst case scenario, it could lead to blindness. Even so, with the proper treatment, the progression can be slowed down, so Yukimiya shouldn't be generally concerned, as he can still model and go about his daily life without any problems. However, it comes down crashing when he asks about soccer. The doctor tells him that as long as it's a hobby, it won't be a problem to continue playing, but he finds it difficult to see Yukimiya being able to take the path of becoming a pro. Yukimiya asks the doctor why it was he that had to face this, and if he did anything wrong. He just wanted to become the best player in the world. His words start to shake as he starts to cry, asking for his dream to come back. The doctor feels sorry for him and says that he understands his pain, and that he will from now on support him the best he can on Yukimiya's road to becoming a pro. Yukimiya knows that his time is running out, however. Before he completely loses his sight, he will become the best striker in the world. After that, we go back into real time, where we see Yukimiya training extremely hard, and because of that, his vision starts to get blurry due to his tiredness. Yukimiya thinks back to Isagi's words and says that he's really annoyed with him, and surely it could be jealousy, as he hasn't done anything since entering the Neo-Egoist League, and yet Isagi keeps getting what he wants. He knows that even though it's frustrating, he has to recognize his own weaknesses. It doesn't matter how much passion he puts into it, or how much hard work, as he has to prove his existence in his own way, even if it means dying with his ideals. After that, we get to Isagi also doing some extremely hard training. He, as Yukimiya, also thinks back to their argument before. He admits that what Yukimiya said is true, however it's more than just that, as the real problem is that he couldn't do anything in that game as a striker. He's shown results for the team with his assist, but to be able to score the next time he has to find out what it is that he's lacking. After he played with Noah, he was able to fully realize that he couldn't see himself beating him right now, and that he admired him too much to be a target. He has to find a target before taking on Noah, and says that the one who would fill that place is none other than Kaiser. Isagi will now do his best to study Kaiser, make him his weapon, and he will show him who survives in this dog-eat-dog world. After that, we fast forward to 10 days when it is time for Bastard Munchen and Noah to announce the regulars for the next match. Noah says that he has based the result of their training and match appearance. Every player was then selected for bringing the desired numbers, and without further ado, he reveals the starting squad. The start with the obvious one, which is, of course, Kaiser in the center forward. after Kaiser comes to Kunigami, who's been placed on the same position but on the right side. And then finally he gets to the offensive midfielder position, which luckily Isagi has managed to snatch away, taking Gesner's spot in the team, while Grim takes the other side. On the top center, we have Ness followed by Ali, who will play as a defensive midfielder. Then for the right side back he puts in Corona, which makes me so happy to finally see him play. Noah says that both Kunigami and Isagi are on the right side, which gives Corona the chance to link up with them. After that, Corona looks at Isagi and says that as long as he's in the match, he will take Isagi's side. For the two centers back, we have Menzer and Birkenstock. To follow them up, we get to the left side back, which Yukimiya is given, which will definitely make an interesting match between him and Isagi. After that, Noah gets to the final position, which is the goalkeeper. However, he doesn't want to use their goalkeeper because he chose the man himself, Gagamaru, to get a special position. Noah says that it might not be the position that he had hoped for, but Gagamaru is just happy to be playing. After that, Noah says that this team was formed using only their numbers, but it also serves as an experimental team of 11. Because as they know, the team has two different philosophies. The first one is the efficient football that Kaiser uses, and the other one is the blue lock style, which consists of using chemical reactions among themselves. Noah is interested in seeing how a team that is simply focused on Kaiser scoring goals will mix with Blue Lock's philosophy. Kaiser quickly gets it and asks Noah if this is a test for him, and Noah tells him that he's right and warns him not to fail. After that, the match between Bastard Munchen and Manshine City finally starts. As the players walk into the field, Isagi goes up to Nagi and Ryo, congratulating them on making the main team, which sounds a bit cocky. Ryo goes off and walks up to Kunigami, saying that he sure went through a lot, saying that both of them lost to Shidu in the second selection, and that it could have been either one of them. As he's walking away, he tells Kunigami that he's happy that he's back. When Ryo has left, another familiar face comes around the corner, and it's of course our favorite princess, Chigiri. Chigiri doesn't hold back, and says that he knows that Kunigami thinks that he's changed to a total edgelord. However, to Chigiri, he's still fighting the same old Kunigami who he knows. As they leave, Chigiri says that he will be the one to wake Kunigami up, and with that, the third match of the Neo-Egoist League starts. Kaiser starts off by passing the ball to Ness. Isagi is following both Ness's and Kaiser's movements clearly, and says that in the 10 days leading to this match, he's been able to run simulations on how to fight. His first condition is Kunigami. However, he will not play alongside Isagi, and will most likely try to score on his own. And then there's Kaiser, who's just straight up a disturbance on the field. Even so, Isagi knows that Kaiser is the center of this team, and even calls him a superior version of himself. Ness and Kaiser are continuing their pass game, and even letting Grim join in on the fun. How kind of them. As Isagi is analyzing Kaiser, he knows that he has to understand him, and then use him to evolve, and then he gets his opportunity. As Grim passes Kaiser, Isagi goes in between and steals the pass. However, what he didn't anticipate was that Ryo would see right through him as he saw Isagi coming from a mile away. When Isagi goes back in and tries to win the ball back, he immediately gets pushed back by Ryo's new improved physical body. Ryo then manages to slip behind him, only to face off against another player from Bastard Munchen. However, this time, it's Ness who's come to stop him. Ness manages to stop him for a while, but it's all over when Ryo takes out Sei's insane nutmeg from the U20 match. After that, Ryo continues on his rampage as he gets behind more and more players, saying that he's in his chameleon-style striker mode, which just sounds so cool. While Isagi is helplessly running to try and stop Ryo, he says that Ryo has managed to improve all of his parameters, and that the Ryo from before would just focus on passing to Nagi, but now he's using Nagi as a dummy to head for the goal himself. As Ryo is getting closer to the goal, he says that he won't rely on Nagi, and that he will surpass him and become the best striker in the world as he shoots a wonder ball to the goal. However, Ryo's shot was merely a copy of Rin's goal, which Gagamaru has already been able to analyze, so he just barely manages to stop the ball from going into the goal, saying that Ryo is still just a copy after all. Bastard Munchen clears the ball, and the ball is headed to Kaiser. However, Chigiri swipes in between and steals it. After that, we get right into a flashback to 20 days earlier. Chris Prince is talking to the Blue Lock players about a body revolution, which basically means increasing the potential of their own strengths in their body. Even so, you can't just train blindly, as every player uses their muscles differently, which is why Chris has created individual training routines for every player. He starts off with Ryo and asks him what type of player he wants to be. Ryo says that he needs to think, but Chris tells him that this isn't something that you should think hard on, asking Ryo how the world's best striker would respond to that question. Rio then says that he wants to be able to control the field by himself and become a striker who can steal goals. Rio doesn't want to be a player who's in need of other players anymore. He straight up says that he now wants to have the power to be the best striker in the world. Chris then explains that no matter how talented someone is, it's not like they can stay positive every day. They might feel a sense of negativity and have moments when they lose confidence. And by always being destined for more, he's become unable to forgive himself when he doesn't match his ideal. Chris says that there have been people that have described him as a narcissist and people who think that he's crazy. Even so, he can't just betray the ideal that he's set for himself, telling the Blue Lock players to pursue their ideals and fight against reality, and if they want to become the best striker in the world, then they need a body that can host their ideals. After Chris's pep talk, he goes back to Rio and asks him if he's able to specifically say what kind of player he sees as his ideal. Rio smiles and says that Chris is right and that he's forgotten how to live like that. And for Rio, the best player in the world that he can imagine would be a fusion of Itoshi Rin and Itoshi Sei. After that, Chris gets a feel of Rio's body. I mean literally. After that, we get back into the game and Chigiri is still in possession of the ball. He has a fierce look in his eyes as he runs towards Bastard Munchin's defense. As he's running, he says that his ideal would be to not pass the ball, as he wants to use his legs to go past all the defenders and then score goals as a striker. And that's basically what he's doing on the field now, as he's gotten behind both Ali and Corona and is now faced with Isagi. Isagi tells him that he won't let Chigiri pass. However, Chigiri coldly tells Isagi that he's the perfect guinea pig. Chigiri then rushes toward Isagi and gives us this outstanding panel, which looks so dope. Anyway, the fierce duel between Chigiri and Isagi starts. Isagi knows that Chigiri's dominant leg is his right, and that Chigiri is only able to shoot high-precision kicks with it. And therefore Isagi thinks that it's strange that Chigiri was assigned to the left side, where he's forced to use his left leg. But then he understands that Chigiri's goal isn't to fully use the left side, but instead cut into the middle. Chigiri goes for a cut inside, and when Isagi goes to cover it, he realizes that he's been fooled, and that Chigiri was aiming to do a double feint. However, ahead of Chigiri lies another player from Bastard Munchin. Then we get a quick flashback to Chris Prince and Chigiri talking. Chris tells Chigiri that to connect his speed to the goal, he should try to create a golden zone. It is said that the famous star player Del Piero had one as well. He had a zone where he could mass-produce goals from. Chigiri quickly connects a golden zone to Baru and Zantetsu and says that they probably had one as well. And after that, we get back into the game and learn that Chigiri's golden zone is 19 meters from the goal and then 44 degrees to the left. Chigiri stops the ball before he goes all into a cut in which Isagi and Messner are unable to react to. Just as Chigiri is 4 meters away from his golden zone, Kunigami comes in his way. However, even the musclehead is nothing to Chigiri, who gets behind him in an instant and then gets into his golden zone. He aims at the top corner of the goal, and the shot from Chigiri is so outstanding that Gagamaru has no way of saving it, which means that Chigiri scores and gives Manshin City a 1-goal lead. After that, we can see how Chigiri's mom and sister are.
Thanks for watching our video. We will show you the rest in our next video.